Welcome to another Visio Insights presentation. Have you ever had the case that you had some data in your Visio diagrams, but that was just stored in your Visio shapes in the form of shape data? Wouldn't it be nice if you could somehow visualize or interpret this data and make your shapes react to data changes? Well, this is exactly what data graphics are made for. So in this case, in this example, I have a simple Visio shape, a computer shape, where I filled in some shape data. You see some IP address, some subnet mask, some product description, the building, the location, and of course the asset number. Now, how do you visualize this? Well, one way, of course, would be to write a text below the shape and add the data. However, there is a more efficient way. In Visio Plan 2, you will see that there is a data tab, and on this data tab, you will have many options. Among them is also to show and hide the shape data window. So this is where you will usually see the metadata. But there is also another category which is called advanced data linking. And in this case, we just go to advanced data graphics. And the data graphics is the trick to do the magic. Now we'll go and hit create new data graphic. And the first thing the tool will ask me is, well, which data would you want to evaluate? So we'll hit new item and then choose a field, which could be any of the shape data entries of the corresponding shape. So in this case, let's use the IP address. So the IP address I could visualize as a text somewhere next to the shape. And there is a huge amount of options like font size and whether the value should be shown, is it left or right, the label, etc., etc. In this case, I will just use the standard settings and hit OK and hit OK again. Then the system will ask me, do you want to apply this data graphic to the selected shapes? I hit yes, and there goes the IP address. Now, if you want to move it, you see this little yellow control handle, which will allow you to move the shape in the text in any direction you desire. Now, that's not all, because that, frankly speaking, could also be done with a simple label. However, keep in mind that the data graphic is a package of data evaluation rules. So one data graphic could, in fact, host a bunch of different rules on how to visualize certain shape data elements. So let's go again to edit data graphic and add a new item. So the trick is not to have two data graphics on one shape, but to add several items into one data graphic package. And now we will, for example, select the hard drive. So where is it? That hard drive capacity. Now the hard drive capacity, I do not want to visualize just simply as a text. I want to have it evaluated. So let's use an icon set. And for example, say, if the hard drive capacity is smaller than, so less than or equal to, let's say 10 gigabyte, then show the red icon. If it is between, and this is literally one category, between 10 and 100, this is, well, it's not super, but it's okay. And if we say, well, if it's greater than 101, because 100 is in the medium category, please show the green icon. There is just one thing to pay attention to. Make sure that literally there is not two categories or two icons having the same value, so that these two should be really distinct. And the other thing is, make sure you didn't exclude anything. So if you say here, less than 100, and the other one is greater than 100, then you're missing the 100. So make sure that every number and even the border values are covered. So let's hit OK, hit apply, let's hit OK, and there you go. Here is an additional data graphic. I don't like it, especially here in this region. So let's go back again to the data graphic, edit the data graphic, go to the hard drive capacity, hit edit item. And then instead of saying just on the right side, let's put it on the far right off top, hit OK, hit apply, hit OK, and there goes the symbol. There is literally no technical limit on how many data graphics you can put on one specific shape. personally, I wouldn't recommend to use like more than 5 or 6 because you need to explain what the different logos, what the different icons, what the different color changes mean. Let's do another one, however, which is very, very helpful, which means that you could also, for example, evaluate the department. Now, how would you evaluate that? We won't use another icon. We don't want necessarily to have it as a text because we don't have so many different departments. Now, the data graphics has also a solution for that. So let's edit it again. Let's add the department also. But instead of using an icon set or the text, there is color by value, which means that the data graphic will color the different shapes based on a value. Now, for understandable reasons, this type of data graphic element only makes sense if you have like at max 4 or 5 different colors. This is just my personal recommendation. Technically, there is no limit, but I wouldn't do that with like 30 different possible values because it will just get a little bit overcrowded. However, you could also have shapes colored in the specific type, or you could even have shapes change their color based on a specific value. Now, let's go back here and show you that the data graphic really also do work in a living system. So let's go ahead and say, okay, we've upgraded this computer to, let's say, 250, and immediately the data graphic changes its color, and in this case, the icon. The same thing would happen if we had the department. If, let's say, marketing is red and sales is green, the whole shape would also change its color. So data graphics are extremely powerful, and if you save your Visio diagram in one of the web-based environments of Visio, Visio Plan 1, for example, the data graphics will change even in the web-based environment when you change the values in the specific shape. Keep in mind, to edit shape data, you need Visio Plan 1, the web environment, or Visio Plan 2, the web environment, because there you have access to the shape data, which you can manipulate also in the web-based environment. Now let's take another example. I have here some Azure shapes. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that when you click on one of those shapes, these shapes have no shape data yet. However, you're free to add shape data here. So let's do that. I will just right click on the shape data window and select define shape data. And in this case, I won't do too much. It's just for matter of a demo. So we'll use the first one. That will be just capacity. And keep in mind to use the label and the name. Now, the difference is the label is what you will see here in the shape data window. The name is the internal name for the specific shape data entry. Unless you have a good reason to do so, use the same. However, in the label, you can also use, for example, spaces. In the name, you can't use spaces. It has to be one specific string. Now, this will be capacity, so it will, in this case, be a number. And you can preset it with a predefined value, or you can leave it as it is. And then let's just hit OK. So now we have the capacity here. And again, let's use it and say, well, this is a 50 gigabyte database. You could also change this so it says in the label capacity in GB, and the internal name is just capacity. That's up to you. And now let's do the same. Advanced data graphics. Create new data graphic. New item. Choose, in this case, there is only one field, capacity. And displayed as, and in this case, we want a data bar. So here we can say, well, the min value is 0, the max value, because we don't have bigger databases, is 100. And this is the huge amount of various options for data bars. Keep in mind, apart from the color changing, also for the other like icon sets, etc., there is a huge amount of icon sets which are pre-configured in Visio for use. You just have to pick one. I just picked the one which was suggested to me, but again, there is many, many more. And then in this case, let's use the standard data bar 1. Just keep in mind to set the max value to a meaningful value. Hit OK, hit OK. Yes, we want it applied, and there it is. And you will see the capacity shown here. So data graphics are simple to create, easy to use, but very powerful in terms of what they visualize, in terms of what kind of information they can give you about the objects and their advanced metadata. However, if I look at this Visio diagram half a year later, I might not remember what the different icons and the different elements mean. So the easiest way to do so is to create a legend. Now, Visio does the job for you. You just need to select also on the data tab the insert legend, and you can pick horizontal or vertical. I click once, and it will immediately add a legend to the drawing page telling you what do the icons, the colors, the data bars mean. So what is it referring to? And again, this you can easily store in your SharePoint environment and have it visualized also in a browser-based environment. I hope you found this interesting. I hope this gave you a few new ideas on how to use Visio and the powers and the capacity of the Visio drawing environment. Thank you very much and have a nice day.